Doubt, it's that whisper in your mind that tells you you're not enough. That subtle hesitation in your gut when you're on the verge of doing something big. It's quiet, cunning, and damn persuasive. You know it well. It's that inner voice that shows up right before the leap, not when you're sitting on the couch doing nothing, but when you're about to make a move that matters. And the first step to silencing it, the first step to unleashing real, unshakable confidence is recognizing it for what it truly is. See, most people think doubt is truth. They think because a thought shows up in their head, it must be real. That if the mind whispers, "You're not ready, you're not smart enough, you're gonna fail," then somehow that message must be accurate. But here's the truth: doubt is not your intuition. Doubt is not your soul. Doubt is a program. It's a leftover mechanism from evolution designed to protect you, not empower you. It's your brain trying to keep you safe, not make you great. Because your brain's job is survival. Your spirit's job is expansion. And when those two collide, when your survival instinct meets your desire to grow, guess who screams the loudest? Doubt, doubt. Doubt is clever. It wears disguises. It shows up as rationality. It shows up as caution. It wraps itself in the costume of being realistic. But let's be honest, being realistic is just code for playing small. You know it? That inner voice doesn't show up when you're mediocre. It doesn't scream when you're doing things you've done 1,000 times. It roars when you're about to level up. It gets loud when you're about to break through. That's not coincidence. That's the resistance. The enemy of growth is not failure. The enemy is that voice inside your head telling you not to even try. You must become aware, hyper aware, of how and when that voice starts speaking. When you're sitting in a meeting and have an idea that could change the room and something tells you to stay quiet, that's doubt. When you're looking at the application for the promotion and your mind whispers, "You're not qualified," that's doubt. When you're at the gym and your body's got another rep in it, but your mind says, "You're done," that's doubt. And the second you see it, you take its power away. Because awareness is the beginning of transformation. You can't change what you don't confront. And here's what's wild: doubt isn't even your voice. It's a mix of every rejection you've internalized, every failure you didn't process properly, every criticism you absorbed without questioning. It's the echo of a teacher who told you you'd never make it. It's the residue of a parent who projected their own fears onto your dreams. It's not you, it's a script. You've just rehearsed it so many times, you think it's who you are. But you are not your doubt. You are not your hesitation. You are not your fear. You are the force that hears those voices and moves anyway. You are the one who has the power to choose what thoughts get airtime in your mind. Your doubt might show up, but it doesn't get to take the mic. You don't silence it by pretending it's not there. You silence it by recognizing it, naming it, and overriding it with truth. Because let me tell you something powerful: doubt can't survive in the face of awareness. The second you say, "This is doubt," this is fear trying to sound like logic. This is insecurity wearing the mask of wisdom. You strip it of its influence. That voice in your head, you've got to interrogate it. You've got to ask it, whose voice is this really? Who told me that? When did I decide this was true? And more important, what would happen if I didn't listen? And don't wait for doubt to disappear before you act. That's the lie. People think confident people don't feel doubt. Nope, confident people feel it and move anyway. They recognize it as background noise, like static on a radio. They turn the volume down and turn their focus up. Because confidence isn't about being sure. It's about being certain that you'll figure it out, even if you're not sure how. It's about trusting your ability to adapt, to learn, to grow, not needing the entire path laid out in front of you. Doubt wants you to stay in the known. Confidence is built in the unknown. So if you want to grow, if you want to build a life that's extraordinary, you've got to stop letting the voice of doubt be your compass. That voice isn't your truth. It's just your past screaming louder than your future. You've got to recognize it, see it, expose it. Because the moment you do, you take away its grip on your destiny. Change your state, change your mind. It sounds simple, because it is. But don't confuse simplicity with weakness. This is one of the most powerful principles you'll ever hear in your life. You see, people walk around every day trapped in emotional states they didn't choose. They say they're tired, they're anxious, they're stressed, they're unmotivated. And they speak as if those states are facts, like the weather. But emotions aren't weather. They don't just happen. They're created. They're conditioned, and they're anchored to your physical state. You want to shift your mindset. Start with your body. Don't wait for motivation to strike before you move. Move, and motivation will follow, because physiology drives psychology. Your posture, your breath, Your facial expressions, these aren't just reflections of your emotions. They are the levers that control them. The way you stand, the way you breathe, the way you use your voice, your eyes, your muscles, all of it sends a signal to your brain. Your body says, we're confident, and your brain says, okay, I'll believe it. Your body says, we're stuck, and your brain says, yeah, looks like it. You can't think your way out of a low state. You have to move your way out. You ever notice how hard it is to be depressed when you're dancing like a maniac? Or how quickly your mood lifts after a hard workout, even if nothing else in your life changed? That's not a coincidence. That's not magic. That's your nervous system responding to new input. The problem is, most people are walking around in a physical pattern of defeat, slouched shoulders, shallow breath, low energy, and they wonder why they feel stuck. Change that pattern, change everything. Stand up tall, pull your shoulders back, breathe deep from your diaphragm, speak louder, move with purpose. Do it even if you don't feel like it, especially if you don't feel like it. Because motion creates emotion, and the right emotion leads to the right mindset. Confidence doesn't just come from what you say to yourself. It comes from what you do with yourself. If your body screams certainty, your mind will listen. There are moments when life hits you hard. Days when everything feels heavy, when doubt creeps in, when fear wraps itself around your spine. And in those moments, your mind will lie to you. It will say you're not ready, that you don't have what it takes, that nothing's gonna work out. But your body is your reset button. You've got to teach it the language of power so it can remind your mind of who you are. That's why rituals matter. That's why routines matter. Not because they're cute productivity hacks, but because they prime your state. You want to build confidence. Build a morning that floods your body with energy and intention. You want to crush anxiety. Create a physical practice that breaks the pattern the moment it begins. You want to lead, to serve, to create, to dominate. Then don't wait for your mind to give you permission. Use your body to lead the charge. Because once you're in a peak state, you think differently, act differently, feel differently. You see opportunity instead of fear. You act from courage instead of hesitation. Have you ever seen someone walk into a room and change the entire energy just by how they enter that state? Have you ever seen someone collapse in the face of pressure, not because they weren't smart, not because they didn't have talent, but because they didn't control their state? That's the game. That's the difference. The edge isn't intelligence. It's intensity. It's access to energy. It's your ability to flip the switch. And when you make this shift consistently, when you teach your body what strength feels like, what certainty feels like, what drive feels like, your nervous system starts to memorize those patterns. It becomes automatic. You won't have to think, I need to be confident right now. Your body will already be there. You won't have to wonder, how do I get motivated? Your body will already be in motion. And once that happens, doubt loses its grip, fear fades, and action becomes your default. But this doesn't happen by accident. It's not about hype. It's about command. You take control of your state, or your environment will do it for you. And most environments aren't built for greatness. They're built for comfort, for mediocrity, for safety. So if you want to rise above, you've got to condition your state like an athlete conditions their body. You've got to wire it in, block it in, train it. Because when you own your state, you own the room, you own the outcome, you own your life. Words are not just sounds. Words are not just letters strung together on a page. Words are power. They are the programming language of your mind. They are the tools that shape your beliefs, construct your identity, and build the reality you experience every single day. You think in language, you feel in language, you decide in language. So if you want to change your life, one of the fastest, most potent ways to do it is to change the way you speak to yourself and to the world. Most people are completely unaware of how their language chains them to mediocrity. They say things like, I'm just not a confident person, or this always happens to me, or I can't catch a break, and they think they're describing their situation. But they're not. They're defining their identity. They're building a prison with their words and then wondering why they can't break free. The truth is, what you consistently say, you start to believe. What you believe, you begin to expect. What you expect, you move toward, and what you move toward, you eventually become. That's the loop. That's the pattern. That's the power. You've got to realize that language is a tool. And like any tool, it can build or destroy. The words you use become the commands your brain follows. Tell yourself you're overwhelmed, and your nervous system will shut down. Tell yourself you're exhausted, and your body will respond. But say instead, I'm challenged, I'm being stretched, I'm in training, and suddenly your brain finds strength instead of weakness. It searches for solutions instead of reasons to quit. The external situation might be the same, but the internal experience is transformed. That's the magic of language. It's not just about being positive. This isn't about fluff or fake affirmations. It's about precision. It's about choosing words that serve you instead of sabotage you. If you tell yourself something is impossible, your mind won't even try. But if you say, this is going to take everything I've got, now you framed it as a test, as a trial worthy of your strength. If you say, if I'm stuck, you feel paralyzed. But if you say, I'm recalibrating, now you're in motion. Language determines whether your mind sees a wall or a door. This is especially true with the words you use when you talk about yourself. The two most powerful words in the English language are I am, because whatever follows, am gets wired into your identity. Say, I'm tired enough times, and it becomes more than a moment. It becomes a personality. Say, I am focused, I am resilient, I am learning, and you start to align your actions with those truths. That's not delusion, that's direction. You're not lying to yourself. You're choosing the reality you want to reinforce. Language also sets the tone for how you show up in the world. Think about how people describe their days. I'm surviving. I'm getting through it. I'm drowning. What does that do to their energy, their body, their decisions? Now imagine someone says, I'm building momentum. From leveling up, I'm on fire. Different words, different world. You don't need a new life. You need a new language. You need to reframe, rename, rewire. And it's not just the words you say out loud. It's the internal dialogue, the running script in your mind, the little phrases you whisper to yourself when no one else is listening. That voice is shaping your destiny. You must learn to interrupt patterns of limitation the moment they arise. When you hear that old script, you're not good enough, you always fail, this is too hard, you don't let it finish. You cut it off. You replace it. You override it with language that aligns with who you're becoming, not who you were. The greats, those who lead, who inspire, who break records, they all understand this. They don't just speak with confidence. They construct their world with it. They use language like a sculptor uses a chisel. They carve out meaning. They shape belief. They define outcomes. And they don't leave it to chance. They rehearse it. They train it. Because they know that words repeated with intensity become beliefs. Beliefs acted upon with consistency become identity. And identity drives destiny. You have to stop using language that limits your strength. No more, I can't. No more, it's hard. No more, maybe someday. You've got to speak as the version of yourself that already knows the outcome is inevitable. You've got to declare your direction even when your circumstances haven't caught up. Because the words you choose in uncertainty are the words that define who you are when certainty returns. And in those moments when everything feels chaotic, when doubt creeps in, when fear knocks on the door, it's your language that decides whether you open it or slam it shut. Confidence is not magic. It's not something you're born with. It's not gifted to the lucky or reserved for the elite. Confidence is built, stacked brick by brick, rep by rep, through repetition. You don't wait for it to show up. You create it, you install it through consistent action. And just like strength in the gym, just like skill in sport, confidence is a muscle. The more you work it, the more you own it. The mistake most people make is thinking confidence is something that happens after they succeed. They're waiting for the outcome, the trophy, the applause to finally feel worthy. But that's backwards. Confidence is not the result of success. It's the cause. It starts with the smallest actions, the reps you don't think matter. The promises you keep to yourself when no one's watching. When you get up on time because you said you would. When you push one more set because you told yourself you're not quitting early. When you show up, speak up, try again, no matter how you feel. That's where confidence is born. It's not built in the big moments. It's not built on the stage or under the spotlight. It's built in the shadows and the repetitions no one sees. And when those reps stack up day after day, they become evidence. And the mind builds confidence from evidence. Confidence is not about pretending you never fail. It's about knowing that failure doesn't break you. You don't need to win every time. You need to show up every time. The repetition of effort is what reinforces your identity. Every time you take action aligned with the person you want to be, you cast a vote for that version of yourself. Enough votes and you start to believe it. Enough days where you show up strong and the brain says, this is who we are now. Not someone who trains, not someone who waits, someone who works, not someone who hopes, someone who handles it. You have to understand that your nervous system responds to repetition. Your mind is a pattern recognition machine. If you repeatedly take bold action, your brain begins to associate action with safety instead of danger. the fear fades, the hesitation shrinks. You rewire your system to feel more comfortable taking risks than sitting still. That's real confidence. Not the absence of fear, but the habit of moving forward anyway. And the only way you install that habit is through reps. Look at any top performer, any leader, any legend. Confidence didn't fall from the sky and land in their lap. It was carved out over time. They took the shot over and over. They gave the speech, made the call, took the hit, got back up, and repeated. While others were waiting to feel ready, they were building readiness through action. Every rep made them stronger. Every repetition gave them more certainty, not just in the outcome, but in themselves. Because the outcome doesn't create confidence. Ownership does. You don't always get to control the result, but you always get to control the repetition. And when it gets hard, when it feels boring or thankless or like nothing's changing, that's when it matters most. The repetitions you put in, when there's no feedback, when there's no reward, when it's just you and the grin, those are the reps that count the most. That's when your identity is being forged. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. What once required effort becomes automatic. What once felt scary becomes second nature. That's the power of repetition. It moves behavior from conscious to instinctual. It stops being something you do and becomes something you are. It also creates reference points. You can look back and say, I've done this before. You've seen yourself push through. You've seen yourself overcome. And even if you didn't win every time, you saw yourself keep going. That's the real flex. Not just what you've achieved, but what you've endured, what you've repeated, what you've proven to yourself over and over again. And that's the stack. That's the pile of evidence that says, I can handle this. I've got this. I've been here before. And that's why small wins matter. That's why the little things, your morning routine, your daily movement, your decision to speak with power, to act with intention matter so much. Each time you do what you said you do, you stack another layer of confidence. Each time you execute, instead of making excuses, you build another level. And over time, those small wins add up. They compound. What starts as effort becomes ease. What starts as struggle becomes swagger. You start to walk different, talk different, because you've built a foundation of certainty that no one can take away. Your past is not just a memory, it's a reservoir. A vault full of moments where you overcame, endured, pushed through and won, no matter how big or small those wins might have seemed at the time. When doubt creeps in and fear tries to take the wheel, you don't need to invent confidence out of thin air. You tap into what's already there, you leverage your past triumphs. You mine your history for strength, because the greatest source of belief in your ability to overcome what's ahead is the knowledge that you've already overcome what's behind. But most people forget that. They shrink in the face of new challenges as if it's their first time in the fire. They forget who they are because they're too focused on who they fear they won't be. They've disconnected from the moments that prove their strength. So they live as if they're starting from zero every time. That's the trap. That's the lie. You are never starting from zero. You are starting from experience. You are starting from resilience. You are starting from every scar that didn't break you, every storm that didn't sink you, every trial you turned to a triumph. You want to break through doubt. Then stop letting your past intimidate you and start letting it empower you. Reflect on your battles, not with regret or nostalgia, but with reverence. Think about the moments where you didn't think you'd make it, but you did. Think about the times you felt lost, but still moved forward. The setbacks that nearly crushed you, but instead forged a deeper version of you. Those aren't just stories, they're fuel. They're the receipts that prove you've got more power than your present circumstances would have you believe. And don't make the mistake of thinking your triumphs only count if they were public, dramatic, or celebrated. Some of your greatest victories happened in silence. Nobody saw you pull yourself out of bed when everything in your world was falling apart. Nobody gave you a medal for showing up to work after a heartbreak, for staying sober when it would have been easier to give in, for telling the truth when a lie would have let you off the hook. But you know, and those moments count. They're part of your personal proof. Stack them. Carry them. When you leverage your past triumphs, you change the internal dialogue. You stop saying, I don't know if I can handle this, and you start saying, I've handled worse. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start affirming, I failed before, and I got back up stronger. You shift from uncertainty to certainty, not because the situation is easier, but because you've already been in the arena, and you're still standing. That changes how you move. That changes how you lead. That changes what you allow yourself to pursue. Confidence isn't about being unshakable. It's about knowing that even if you get shaken, you won't break. And that belief doesn't just show up, it's earned. It's earned by looking back with intention, not to dwell, not to stay stuck, but to extract the power, to remind yourself that your past isn't baggage. It's evidence, it's leverage, it's the proof that you've been tempered in fire, and every time you came out stronger. And if you've done it before, you can do it again. And again, and again. What happens when you truly start living from that perspective? You stop playing small. You stop hesitating. You stop questioning your right to be in the room. You realize that imposter syndrome is a thief, and your past victories are the proof of ownership. You've earned your space. You've paid your dues in persistence, in struggle, in silent battles that no one applauded. You carry that. You wear it like armor. Not to show off, but to remind yourself what's already in you. The power of this practice is that it puts you back in the driver's seat. It disrupts the story that says, I'm not ready, and replaces it with, I've been preparing for this my whole life. Because every challenge you've overcome was a rep, a training session, a setup for the next level. Even if it didn't feel like it in the moment, it was building your base. That base is made of real evidence. Not fantasy, not hype. Facts. You've struggled. You've grown. And those moments don't disappear. They accumulate. They create momentum. They create identity. And the beautiful thing about leveraging past triumphs is that it doesn't require anything external. It's an internal resource that no one can take away. Not the market, not your past failures, not critics. You carry it in your memory, in your body, in your nervous system. It's embedded in your story. The more you reflect on it, the more you reinforce it. The more you reinforce it, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually, confidence is no longer something you try to summon. It's something that shows up before you do, because you've taught yourself to remember what you've already proven. Belief is the genesis of every achievement, the foundation of every breakthrough, the invisible force that drives action when logic says stop. If your beliefs are fragile, your confidence will be temporary. It will shake with the first sign of adversity, crumble under the weight of rejection, disappear in the face of uncertainty. But if you install unshakable beliefs, deep, immovable convictions about who you are and what you're here to do, then no setback, no failure, no critic will have the power to derail you. You become unshakable not because the world stops testing you, but because your inner world becomes non-negotiable. Unshakable beliefs don't form by accident. They don't show up just because you want them. They are built through decision and reinforced through repetition. You have to choose what to believe. You have to take full responsibility for the stories that run your mind. Too many people walk around with inherited beliefs, borrowed ideas from parents, teachers, society, experiences they never questioned. They believe they're not smart enough, not worthy enough, not meant for more, not because it's true, but because they never challenged the narrative. Installing new beliefs means writing your own code. It means deciding what gets to live in your mind and what gets deleted forever. You've got to decide who are you really, not based on your past, not based on your mistakes, not based on what other people see, based on what's true at your core, based on your potential, based on your intention. Unshakable belief starts with identity. You declare, this is who I am, and then you align everything with that. Not who you hope to be, who you already are, beneath the fear, beneath the doubt. Because belief isn't pretending. Belief is revealing. It's peeling back the noise until what's real can rise to the surface and take command. One of the fastest ways to install new beliefs is through pattern interruption. When the old voices show up, you're not ready. You always screw this up. This is too big for you. You don't argue with them. You override them. You slam the door shut. You break the loop. You insert a new command. You say, that's not my story anymore. You declare, I am more than this fear. I am the kind of person who shows up anyway. I am built for this. And you say it not once, but over and over until it stops being an idea and starts being a knowing. Until it moves from the surface of your mind to the wiring of your nervous system. The brain responds to intensity and repetition. If you want a belief to stick, you don't whisper it. You declare it. You don't say it once and move on. You say it with emotion, with force, until the old wiring breaks apart and something stronger takes its place. Just like carving a new trail through the forest, you've got to walk the new path often enough that it becomes the default. Every time you reinforce a belief through action, when you follow through, when you stand your ground, when you speak your truth, you deepen the groove. You say to your brain, this is who we are now. And belief isn't just mental, it's physical. The way you breathe, the way you stand, the way you move. It all sends messages to your brain about what's true. You can't say, I'm powerful. while slouching and mumbling. Your body has to match the belief. You step into it fully. You act as if it's already true. Not to fake it, but to feel it, to anchor it, to claim it. That's how belief becomes embodied. Not just something you think, but something you live. You also have to protect your belief like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. You don't entertain conversations that chip away at it. You don't keep company with people who belittle your vision. You don't consume content that fills your mind with fear. Every input either feeds your belief or erodes it. You're either reinforcing the foundation or poking holes in it. So be ruthless. Filter what gets access to your mind. Guard your inner world like a sacred space, because that's exactly what it is. And remember, belief doesn't mean you'll never feel doubt again. It means the doubt won't decide. The belief is louder. It's stronger. It's anchored so deeply that even when fear whispers, it's drowned out by certainty. And that certainty gives you access to everything. It gives you the courage to start, the grit to continue, the resilience to rise again and again. It becomes a lens through which you see everything. Not can I, but how will I? Not do I deserve this. I was built for this. And that shift, that absolute, grounded certainty, is the difference between hesitation and dominance, between survival and expansion, between potential and power. Most people spend their lives trapped in the waiting room of potential, paralyzed by the myth of perfection. They wait for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect version of themselves to show up before they move. But while they wait, life moves on. Opportunities pass by. Confidence isn't born in contemplation, it's built in action. Not perfect action, not polished, elegant, flawless action. Massive, imperfect action. Action that looks messy. Action that feels awkward. Action that stumbles, but moves forward anyway. That's where the real momentum lies. The world doesn't reward ideas, it rewards execution. You don't get paid for potential. You get paid for performance. You don't transform your life by thinking about what you could do. You transform it by doing what needs to be done, even when you're unsure, even when you're scared, even when the plan is fuzzy and the path unclear. Because clarity doesn't come before action. It comes through action. You don't wait for the fog to lift. You move through it, one step at a time, and eventually the way forward reveals itself. Taking massive and perfect action is a rebellion against fear. It's a declaration that says, I'm no longer waiting for permission. It's an internal shift that moves you out of the comfort zone and into the arena. And the moment you enter the arena, everything changes. Not because you're guaranteed to win, but because you're no longer on the sidelines. You're in motion. You're engaged. And when you're engaged, fear loses its grip. Because fear feeds on stillness. It multiplies in delay. But it dissolves in movement. The truth is, you'll never feel fully ready. There will always be doubts. There will always be uncertainty, but none of that disqualifies you from taking action. The goal isn't to eliminate the fear before you act. The goal is to act before the fear has a chance to grow. And when you do, something powerful happens. Your brain recalibrates. You stop overthinking. You stop catastrophizing. You stop living in the loop of what if, and start living in the energy of what's next. That momentum is everything. It builds confidence. It creates competence. It develops capacity. Imperfect action is not sloppy or careless. It's not random or reckless. It's decisive. It's intentional. It's rooted in a commitment to progress over perfection. When you take massive, imperfect action, you give yourself permission to learn in motion. You give yourself the freedom to fail forward. And in doing so, you collect data, you gain experience, you sharpen your edge. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to take the next step. And then the next. And then the next. Success is rarely a giant leap. It's a series of bold steps taken consistently in the direction of your vision. You cannot think your way into confidence. You have to move your way into it. You have to build it through proof. Proof that you are capable. Proof that you can recover. Proof that you can show up even when the odds aren't perfect. Every time you take action, especially when you're uncertain, you're casting a vote for your future self. You're reinforcing the identity of someone who leads, who initiates, who doesn't wait around hoping life will change. You become the kind of person who creates change, who builds momentum from scratch, who doesn't need ideal conditions to make progress. And let's get off, it doesn't exist. Perfection is a lie designed to keep you small. It's a defense mechanism, a shield your ego throws up to the discomfort of being seen trying and not getting it right the first time. But greatness isn't clean. Growth isn't tidy. Mastery is messy. Behind every master is a mountain of mistakes. Behind every win is a history of stumbles. You don't get to the peak without bruises. You don't get to the breakthrough reward without risk. The people who rise, the people who lead, the people who leave legacies, they're not the ones who had it all figured out. They're the ones who started before they were ready. They're the ones who took messy action, got knocked down, learned fast, and stood back up. They didn't wait for certainty. They created it, and you can too. But it starts with one choice to move, to stop preparing and start producing, to stop dreaming and start doing, to stop analyzing and start executing. When you commit to massive and perfect action, you send a powerful signal, not just to the world, but to yourself. You tell yourself that your dreams are worth it, that your goals are valid, that your growth matters. And the more action you take, the more evidence you build. The more evidence you build, the more belief you anchor. The more belief you anchor, the more unstoppable you become. That's the compounding power of movement. It doesn't just change your results, it rewires your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs to be rescued and start seeing yourself as the one who makes it happen. So here's the truth. Confidence isn't reserved for the chosen few. It's not something you're born with or something that magically appears when life gets easier. It's forged. It's installed one decision at a time. You silence doubt not by wishing it away, but by stepping into the fire and realizing it can't burn you unless you let it. You change your state, rewire your language, repeat your victories, leverage your past, install beliefs like steel, and take relentless and perfect action not once but daily. You don't wait for confidence to come. You generate it. You don't ask for power. You claim it. And if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to own your mind, your story, your voice, then there's nothing that can stop you. Doubt may still knock at your door, but you won't be answering it because you'll be too busy building, leading, rising, and becoming the person you were always meant to be. Stand tall, speak boldly, move forward with certainty. Thank you for showing up and stepping into your power today.